going through your highlights section. Let's jump right in, y'all. So this is a screen recording of me showing you guys Miss Erica Kirk's Instagram, where she is talking about if you could call yourself, 5 years from now and give yourself advice, what would you say? Don't try cocaine.
For years, Charlie Kirk's critics have been relentless, but a recent revelation has left many of them speechless. It all started when an independent researcher named Dan began digging into Turning Point USA's finances, and what he found was explosive. We're talking about millions of dollars moving through a complex web of companies, all connected to high-level insiders. When Charlie Kirk himself called for an in-depth audit, everyone wondered if he was trying to get ahead of a story that was about to break. Now, that story is here. It involves everything from a company allegedly running a domestic troll farm, getting paid millions.
Isn't that interesting? I'll go ahead and pull a still photo up for you guys in case, we didn't really get a good look at this. So,
to top fundraisers receiving money through their own private ventures. And right in the middle of it all, a bizarre Instagram post from Erica Kirk surfaces, adding another layer of chaos to the mix. This isn't just about financial mismanagement. It's about pulling back the curtain on how modern political influence is bought and paid for. What's been uncovered is a masterclass in digital strategy and perception control, and it reveals a system far more brilliant and unsettling than anyone imagined. Stay tuned, because the details are staggering. All right, let's jump right in, because we are diving into some seriously wild information about Turning Point USA today. And surprisingly, this time, I'm actually going to be defending them. At least, partly. It all starts with an independent researcher who goes by Dan. This guy has been putting in some serious work, digging through financial records that go way, way back. He's not just scratching the surface. He's piecing together a complex financial puzzle that most people wouldn't even know exists, uncovering payments and connections that raise some serious questions.
That's the total I can document from Turning Point USA's own tax filings. It's their numbers, it's their signatures.
19.6 million is the number you just said.
And it's all reported under penalty of perjury for the IRS. Before we go any further, let me tell you exactly who we're talking about. We're going to talk about Jake Hoffman. He's an Arizona state senator. He's been indicted as one of Arizona's fake electors for signing documents that claim Donald Trump won the 2020 election when he never did. Trump pardoned him in November of 2005. But
now, here's the thing. Anytime you're dealing with big organizations, especially nonprofits with 9-figure budgets, you're going to see complicated financial structures pop up. When massive amounts of money are being moved around, people tend to work with contractors or companies they already know, trust, or sometimes even have a stake in. It might not always look great from the outside, but it happens all the time. Think about it. If you're in charge of a $100 million nonprofit and you need to hire someone for a specialized service, what do? A lot of people in that position would just build their own company to provide that service and then hire themselves. It's not exactly shocking. It's just how the system often works. Now, let's be crystal clear about something. I'm not saying anything illegal is happening here. If it were, I wouldn't even go there. I'm just pointing out how these things often play out behind the scenes. And honestly, once you understand that, none of this is particularly shocking. The pieces of the puzzle fit together quite easily once you start paying attention. So, when Charlie Kirk himself started talking about doing a full, in-depth audit of his own organization, it made people wonder what prompted that. Was he trying to get ahead of something? It's an interesting piece of context worth breaking down. But before we get into the heavy financial details, let's address another layer of chaos that's been thrown into the mix. It seems like someone, somewhere, is pushing creators to go after TPUSA, and even Erica Kirk specifically. There's a wave of content forming, and let's be real. When videos criticizing these names drop, they get pushed hard by the algorithm. The engagement spikes. But if you talk about something wholesome or unrelated, you suddenly hear crickets. That's not random. It's how the system rewards controversy. Speaking of which, a creator named Patriotic Housewife found something fascinating. She was digging through Erica Kirk's Instagram highlights and found a post that was clearly meant to have been deleted, but wasn't. The post itself was a response to the question, if you could call yourself 5 years from now and give yourself advice, what would you say? The answer was jarring. Don't try cocaine. Now, on the surface, that's a good message. Warning people against drug use is positive. However, the phrasing made it sound deeply personal, as if she were speaking from experience. For someone who has cultivated a very traditional, family-oriented public image, that kind of statement, whether a joke or not, is bound to cause a stir. Of course, people immediately started speculating. I'm not here to judge anyone for their past choices. We've all made mistakes. But in her specific position, it's not surprising that people reacted so strongly. It was an unforced error, adding a layer of personal drama to an already simmering financial controversy. But let's switch back to Dan's work, because his research is truly on another level. The guy goes deep. In his latest video, he drops a number that is staggering: $19.6 million. That is the total he can document being paid by Turning Point USA's entities, taken directly from their own tax filings. These aren't his numbers. They're their numbers, reported on official documents signed under penalty of perjury for the IRS. So, who received this money? This is where it gets really interesting. We're talking about Jake Hoffman. He's a current Arizona state senator, but his background is what's crucial here. He was indicted as one of Arizona's fake electors for signing documents that falsely claimed Donald Trump won the 2020 election. The breakdowns in Dan's research are incredibly detailed, and the documentation is wild. It's seriously impressive stuff. And while I don't agree with everything he says, a lot of what he's found makes you think. These transactions and connections he's uncovered raise fair questions about how business and partnerships are being handled behind the scenes. At one point, Dan brings up Jake Hoffman's digital operations, and this is where you get a twist. Hoffman has been tied to campaigns that were flagged by major social media platforms. But in a strange way, that actually supports part of TPUSA's defense. Think about it. If he was running digital engagement campaigns that got so much traction that a platform like Facebook had to step in, it means his work was incredibly effective. Whether or not the tactics he used broke platform rules is one question, but it's undeniable that he made enough noise to draw massive attention. So, if TPUSA hired his company to manage that kind of online activity, it's not shocking at all. It just shows they were paying for what they wanted: reach and influence, even if it ruffled some feathers. When I hear he was paid millions, I don't really blink. It just means he was running a serious, large-scale operation. That doesn't mean everything around it is clean, though. And this is where the story takes a dark turn. In October of 2020, Hoffman's company, Rally Forge, was permanently banned from Facebook. Why? Facebook itself called it a domestic troll farm. They found that Rally Forge had been paying teenagers, including minors, to create fake social media accounts and post pro-Trump, pro-TPUSA content. It was a coordinated, fraudulent operation. You would think that a permanent ban from one of the world's largest platforms for running a troll farm would be the end of that business relationship. You would think a major nonprofit like Turning Point USA, which relies on public trust and donations, would immediately distance themselves. But that's not what happened. According to the documents Dan uncovered, even after Rally Forge was banned for what was essentially fraud, Turning Point entities continued to pay him. They just kept writing checks. Over the next few years, they paid his companies over $7 million more. They never stopped. Think about that. A company is publicly shamed and banned for fraudulent, deceptive practices, and a major political organization not only doesn't sever ties, but continues to funnel millions of dollars to it. That goes beyond a simple conflict of interest. It raises a profound question that has nothing to do with standard business practices and everything to do with ethics. Why? Why would you continue to fund an operation that was publicly exposed as a troll farm? That's the question that silences critics and leaves everyone demanding answers. The revelation that Turning Point USA continued to pay a company banned by Facebook as a domestic troll farm is shocking enough. But it's when you look at the timeline that the picture gets even clearer. Dan, the researcher, notes that some of this activity dates back around 2011 to 2021. That's a full decade. And that made me think, 10 years is a very long time. A lot can happen in that span. People can rebuild, start over, and completely change their financial situation. I know that from personal experience. A little over a decade ago, I had my own major financial setbacks. I had sold a company, most of the payment came in stock, and then that stock crashed to zero. On top of that, I had personally guaranteed large loans that the acquiring company didn't cover. It was an absolute nightmare. My own attorney told me, "You'll probably win if you sue, but you'll never actually recover the money." So I had to take the hit, file for bankruptcy, and start completely from scratch. But you fast forward a decade, and life can look totally different. I paid off my debts, bought property, and stabilized everything. That's just how time and persistence work. So when people act like it's impossible for someone to financially bounce back in 10 years, that's just not realistic. The real question isn't if they could do it. It's how they did it. And that's where this story goes down a deep financial rabbit hole. Let's talk about a person named Stacy Sharon. According to the information being shared, she is an employee of Turning Point USA, and her role is to run their fundraising. Reports say she earns a salary of around $180,000 a year for this job. But here's where it gets complicated. Sharon also runs at least 2 additional companies, Cloverstone Ventures and Lion Rock Ventures. And according to the tax filings Dan uncovered, these companies have been receiving massive checks from TPUSA for the past several years. How massive? We're talking about a staggering $5.3 million in fundraising fees paid by Turning Point USA directly to these entities that she owns. So let's connect those dots. She is a salaried employee in charge of fundraising. At the same time, her private companies are being paid millions of dollars in fees for fundraising. In essence, it appears she is being paid twice, once as an employee, and then again as a contractor through her own side businesses for doing the same job. Now, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, so I can't say exactly how that setup is structured, but it raises some serious eyebrows. If she's already being paid a salary for her role, why would millions in additional payments be routed through separate companies she owns? Maybe it's a commission model or some kind of consulting arrangement, but it's a structure that begs for an explanation. To put this in perspective, Dan's research points out that a massive, multi-billion-dollar organization like the American Red Cross spends about 4% of its budget on fundraising. The structure at TPUSA seems to be something else entirely. And adding another layer of confusion is the person overseeing these finances, Justin Olson, the CFO. According to the reports, he isn't a certified CPA. Again, this isn't illegal, but for an organization managing nearly $100 million a year, you would expect the chief financial officer to have the highest level of certification. No one is suggesting anything dark or extreme happened because of these transactions. What's being pointed out is simply how these systems often work in big organizations. But it does make you wonder, why go through all those extra steps and complex corporate structures instead of just paying straightforward commissions or bonuses to your employee? Maybe it's about optics, or maybe it's just how these circles operate. But the story of questionable financial turnarounds doesn't end with just one person. Let's look at Tyler Bowyer. He's described as a major figure within TPUSA, someone who basically knows and runs everything. He was also indicted alongside Jake Hoffman as one of the fake electors, and was also pardoned by Donald Trump. His officially disclosed compensation from Turning Point entities totals over $1.4 million. However, the financial timeline here is what's truly stunning. Back in 2011, Bowyer was reportedly in serious financial trouble, losing condos to foreclosure, and even having his wages garnished. Yet, in 2021, just 10 years later, He put a $650,000 down payment on a $1.95 million home in Mesa, Arizona. Again, I'm not here to judge anyone for past financial issues. But if you're working for a nonprofit organization that is funded by donors, and you go from wage garnishment to putting down over $500,000 on a luxury home in a decade, I think that needs to be explained. Where did that money come from? How does an employee of a nonprofit amass that kind of wealth so quickly? It's the same pattern. Insiders connected to a donor-funded organization experiencing explosive financial growth that seems disproportionate to their official salaries. This isn't just about one person's success story. It's about a recurring theme within the organization's inner circle. When you see multiple people with close ties to the money and power suddenly making millions, all while the organization is paying out multi-million-dollar contracts to their other companies and associates, you have to start asking if this is all just a series of happy coincidences, or if it's a feature of the system they've built. So when you zoom out and really look at everything we've been talking about, it starts to feel like one massive interconnected system. The questionable payments, the troll farm controversy, the insider's sudden wealth, Erica Kirk's social media mishaps, each part feeds into the next. This isn't just about one company or one personality. It's about how modern influence actually works. It's a machine. And Dan's investigation isn't just exposing a few broken parts. It's showing us the blueprints for the entire engine. Think about what we used to call manufacturing consent. That term referred to how traditional media, the big TV networks, the major newspapers, framed public opinion and told people what to believe. But now, that entire process has moved online, and it operates on a scale that makes old-school media look like a puppet show. The new game isn't about telling people what to think. It's about making it look like everyone else already thinks that way. Once people believe an opinion is the majority view, they stop questioning it. They go along with what's trending instead of thinking it through for themselves. And that's how you shape reality. This is where companies like Jake Hoffman's Rally Forge become so valuable. They are selling influence. Running organized online networks costs money. Big money. You need servers, content schedulers, ad budgets, social media managers, and data analysts. So when you see those big checks moving from TPUSA to Hoffman's companies, it doesn't automatically mean something illegal is happening. It could simply mean they are funding the very machinery that keeps their voice loud in the deafening chaos of the internet. The goal is to create a digital echo chamber. One topic starts trending, and suddenly hundreds of accounts are posting the exact same talking points, using the same phrases, sharing the same memes. A casual observer scrolls through their feed and thinks, "Wow, everyone is saying this. It must be true." But what they don't see is that many of those voices might be paid consultants, digital teams, or even automated accounts, all designed to create a manufactured sense of momentum. That's how online opinion gets sculpted. It's not about facts, it's about volume and repetition. If you're someone like Hoffman and you know how to run that kind of operation effectively, of course, big organizations are going to hire you. They aren't just buying a service, they are buying control of the narrative. And this explains the secrecy too. The stripped-down, unarchivable websites for companies like Rally Forge and Cloverstone Ventures make perfect sense when you think about it. If you're managing online influence campaigns for high-profile political clients, you don't exactly want random people stumbling onto your site and seeing your client list. You want to look legitimate for contracts and taxes, but be completely invisible to everyone else. These companies live in the gray area between public transparency and strategic privacy. And this right here is the heart of the story. The internet has completely blurred the line between marketing, manipulation, and media. What used to be obvious PR spin is now disguised as grassroots opinion. What used to be an advertisement is now organic engagement. And what makes this system so powerful is the role of the algorithm itself. The platforms, YouTube, X, Instagram, are designed to reward conflict. The algorithm doesn't care about truth or nuance. It cares about engagement. And nothing drives engagement like outrage. This is why the entire digital ecosystem keeps feeding itself by amplifying controversy. The critics need the chaos to grow their views. The organizations need the critics to make them seem like underdogs fighting a hostile system, which in turn drives donations. The platforms need both sides fighting because conflict equals clicks, and clicks equal money. It is a perfectly self-sustaining system powered by our own outrage. And in a strange way, everyone involved is a prisoner of the same game. Dan gets more viewers for his deep dives. The critics get more exposure. And even the people being criticized, like Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, gain renewed attention and sympathy from their base. Bad press is still press. That's the brutal paradox of our digital world. This brings everything full circle. The big picture we've been building towards since the beginning. Jake Hoffman's company, the 10-year timeline, the odd website setups, the fundraising trails, and those mysterious online campaigns. It all fits together. It's a snapshot of how power works now. It's not about secret deals in smoky rooms anymore. It's about perception management that is digital, fast, and constant. In a way, it's almost poetic. The internet gave everyday people the power to question authority, but it also gave that same authority the tools to reinvent itself faster and more effectively than ever before. So when Charlie Kirk called for that deep audit, maybe he realized exactly how tangled it had all become. Maybe he saw that every payment, every contract, and every consulting deal could eventually be interpreted as another move in a relentless influence war. And that's why this story hits so hard. It's not just about one organization possibly doing something wrong. It's about realizing that almost everyone in a position of power is playing the same game. And honestly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. The question isn't whether these people did something unethical. It's whether the system itself, the very one we all participate in every day, encourages and rewards this exact kind of behavior. So, we've pulled back the curtain and exposed the playbook for how modern influence is manufactured. This isn't just about one organization. It's about the hidden system that runs our digital world. But now, it's your turn. After seeing how this machine operates, where do you draw the line? Is this just smart, aggressive strategy, or is it a dangerous manipulation of public opinion? And is it even possible to succeed in modern politics without playing this game? I want to know your uncensored thoughts in the comments below.